there, this is Zarah Danejo, and this is Roundup. Welcome to Roundup, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. While polygamy itself is a controversial topic these days, polygamy is a recognized lifestyle choice in Nigeria. Recent research reports that women in polygamous marriages have the worst mental health outcomes for women in the general population. Women in polygamous marriages struggle with anxiety, depression, and poor self-esteem. The debate rages on, online and offline. So we ask, does polygamy really diminish women? With me in the studio is Malama Aishat Adaviruku. She's the CEO of Master Coach Coaching and Mentoring Hub and a seasoned marriage counselor and therapist. Welcome to Roundup.
Thank you.
So what is the best way for a woman to manage her feelings towards polygamy?
There is a lot of work to be done by parents when it comes to upbringing, the kind of experiences that parents expose children to, and the kind of environment and education we give to children would condition these children who become adults. That's one way. Now, if for any reason you have a poor view of polygyny, you can re-educate yourself on what polygyny, the real essence.
But why is there, because a lot of people say, oh, it's a misconception, but why does such a misconception exist that polygamy is inherently evil and bad?
Like I said, it came from the narratives that have been passed down, from generation to generation. And when you have this sort of conditioning and you have individuals who actually, have this fear of polygyny, they pass it on to the children around them. And there are also a lot of, challenges that come with polygyny.
Because I wanted to ask, is the narrative really that different from the reality?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. It depends on what you're working with. Like in Nigeria, specifically, in some parts of Nigeria, you have this stepmother stereotype of an evil stepmother that stops the progress of her children, of her stepchildren, and all of that. But we also have relationships where stepmoms are the ones that have raised some individuals, and they've raised them well. They're succeeding. They're making a lot of waves when it comes to their personal and professional life. So where is the stepmother's evil in that particular instance?
Right. So what would be the way for a woman to manage her own self really in a polygamous marriage?
Okay, so I counsel a lot of women in polygyny, and what I tell them is happiness is self-generated. Marriage does not complete you. Because sometimes from what the interactions I've had with women, what actually steals their joy is that mindset that marriage completes me, and now if I have to share my man, then I'm no longer complete. Or if my man is looking at another woman, that means something is lacking. Or, what's lacking is what my husband is looking for outside. But when we look at the major religion that permits polygyny, as we would see that it's not about the woman. It's not about inadequacies in a woman. It's more about protecting the rights. And also, if you look at the statistics, you would see that when it comes to infant mortality, there are more male children that die at infancy than female. When you look at wars, most wars are fought by men, and they don't, they lose their lives in the process. So, and even when it comes to adult mortality, male, from statistics,
earlier than women.
male die earlier than women. So male population are lesser than women, which means that a lot of women would be left without a husband if polygyny is not practiced. Now, for the woman to be able to take care of her mental health, she needs to put all this into perspective. She needs to understand her status as an individual, her intellectual status in Islam, her economic status in Islam. A woman, when you marry her, you give her her dowry, and it's hers. And she can ask for anything as long as she knows that, you have, even if you don't have the capacity, you can bargain with her to, step it down. But she can actually ask you for anything that is below the minimum amount of dowry. So a woman is empowered Islamically. A woman also has to understand that when it comes to polygyny, Islam actually regulates polygyny. Islam didn't, introduce polygyny. The father of the two religions, Prophet Abraham, was polygamous. So if a woman is able to put all this in context, to be able to understand that her polygyny doesn't affect her self-esteem because it's a stereotype that is being passed down, so that this stereotype is, I don't know where it originated from, but it doesn't help us as women, because we know that polygyny is here to stay. Now, if polygyny is here to stay, how can you as a woman show up better? You can have this discussion with your spouse to be, so that you understand what his mindset is with regards to polygyny. Does he even understand, the rulings when it comes to Islamic polygyny? Does he understand the rulings?
But one of the things that stood out for me while researching for this episode is something called first wife syndrome.
Okay.
Yes, the researchers identified it as the feeling that from first wives, that they are the owners of the man in question, and therefore him marrying anyone else is sort of like a betrayal of that ownership. And from the research was conducted in Syria and Yemen and Egypt, all majority Muslim countries. And it seemed as if the first wives were not able to recover from that betrayal of, you are mine and I am yours, and now you've gone to bring someone else. If it's a first wife you're speaking with, what would you tell her?
Okay, so I empathize with first wives, because it's when your husband decides to marry another woman, it can be traumatizing if your mindset sometimes is not in the right place where it's supposed to be. Even if your mindset is in the right place, you may still need support. That's where conditioning comes in.
Because you're hurting.
Yes, you're hurting. Some women are able to heal quicker than others. So as a first wife, I can see you, I can hear you, I can feel you. I know that it's not easy for somebody you've been together with for 5, 10, 2 years, 1 year to decide to bring in another woman. Now, with the right sort of conditioning to know that, yes, this may happen, you prepare yourself for it. One of the other things I've seen with some first wife is they sacrifice a lot for their husbands, with the mindset that if I do all of this, he would not look at another woman. But hey, that's not how a man operates, which is why we need to know how a man operates, so that we prepare ourselves for how a man operates. A man can love more than two women at the same time. So the fact that he has decided to marry another wife doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. And it's also the sort of polygyny that we practice sometimes. A man would disrespect his wife in the process of bringing in another woman. So we need to talk to ourselves. It's everybody, all stakeholders need to understand that we can all do something to change this sort of mindset towards polygyny, so that it can serve us the way it's supposed to serve it. So some women actually hand over all their earnings to their husbands. They do all sorts of things. They up their games.
I know someone who used to wash his car.
Yes.
And his
all in the
clothes,
hope
yes,
that he will not bring in another woman.
Wow.
So it comes as a big shock when he decides to do that. I advise women, when you get married, in my premarital counseling sessions, we put it on the table and we discuss it with the couples to be that, okay, what do you think about polygyny? Okay, I advise the woman, don't do, if you know you're doing something for the man, do it. If you're doing it to earn reward from your creator, do it to earn reward. Don't do it because of him, maybe because he will not marry another woman, because it will shock you. Some women have gone to their early graves because of this. While some women, they're busy fighting their husbands. Okay, return that car, return that land, return this that I did for you. That means you didn't do it,
with a clean mind.
With a clean mind to seek, to enhance the marital bond and to seek the reward from your creator. You are doing it with an agenda. And when we do things with this sort of agendas, they can backfire.
So you don't think that polygamy is bad for women?
Polygamy is actually good for women.
Why do you say so?
For a lot of reasons. Top 3. If, for instance, a woman is the manager in the home and the man provides standard, if that's the standard, when the man goes to the other wives, it's her turn, it's her duty, she gets to rest and she can actually do, other things that can enhance her spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. She can even spend that time with her therapist.
So you're saying that polygamy allows the woman a chance to have a life?
Yes, to thrive.
So hold that thought. We are going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, and we're still discussing if polygamy is bad for women, and Malama Aishat Adaviruku is here with me. She's the CEO of Master Coach. Yes. So you were saying that you think polygamy allows a woman to have a life outside her marriage, and therefore it is good for her because she doesn't have to be with her husband all the time. But there are people who would argue that that will affect the quality of the bond between her and her husband, since they're like visitors to each other all the time. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that giving each other some time can actually improve love when you get to unite.
Yes. Really?
Yes. I've seen it happen.
So absence makes the heart go fonder.
Yes.
Yes. So, but do you think that a lot of the bad press that polygamy gets is actually because a lot of people are raised to see it as a competition for resources, for attention?
Yes, and sometimes the couples are not doing it right. So all stakeholders must commit to actually changing the narrative. Polygyny does have guidelines, right? And some individuals that go into it don't even understand what the guidelines are. Talk less of, following it. The Quran says that there should be equity, there should be justice. So justice in this sense is you should give each woman her rights. So one woman has 4 children, another have 2 children. You should be able to give each resources that can actually cater for this number of individuals in each household. And then when it comes to time sharing, it's also important that you are seen to be equitable in terms of time sharing. And the family should get to discuss and agree on some very sensitive challenges. But sometimes this is not the case. The wives are warring. They see each other as rivals. And this does not give room for discussion and agreements, and this can be challenging polygyny can be challenging for all the parties. Mm-hmm. That's why it needs a lot of courage, a lot of knowledge. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But what kind of person, what kind of woman do you think should go into a polygamous arrangement? Since you've just said, and especially also what kind of man should go into that kind of arrangement, since you said that it's so challenging and it requires strict adherence to the guidelines. in your professional opinion, what sort of individual should go into that kind of arrangement?
Yeah. So, that question is multidimensional, and I would go back to upbringing, significant emotional experiences, environment, and education. Because of the conditionings that we have as individuals, sometimes when it comes to marriage, we may need to re-parent ourselves, re-educate ourselves on what marriage takes. And actually, I would say that individuals should go to a finishing school to prepare themselves for marriage.
Really, a
Yes,
school?
yes, because there are some perceptions that don't empower individuals that they hold, and if they take this into marriage, it can actually cause challenges in the marriage. So, coming back to what kind of woman should go into polygyny, there are individuals who feel that they're excessively jealous. They will tell you point blank, I can't imagine myself in polygyny. And some of this, when you go deeper as, a therapist, my job is to actually go deeper with my clients to see what is happening beyond the surface, beyond that perception that they hold. What are the roots? Rumi, one of my popular writers, said something. He said, sometimes you're looking in the branches for what only appears in the roots. So sometimes you need to go into the roots to ask yourself, why am I afraid of polygyny as an individual? Is it excessive jealousy? Is it because, I've seen my parents do it the wrong way? Is it because, I'm afraid of diabolic things that I've heard? There is what we call transferred trauma. Some people have never been in polygyny, but they're scared of polygyny. And, when we do polygyny right, there are people who don't do polygyny right. There are people who have mistresses all over the place. And these mistresses have their own, sugar boys out there. And they collect from sugar daddy, give to sugar boy. So why can't we do the right thing? Because in Islam, when it comes to inheritance, a bastard is not entitled to inheritance. And when it comes to Islam back again, the guidelines for marriage includes inheritance, it includes divorce. Both the woman can, institute divorce, the man can institute divorce. So when you have, for Islam is a total way of life, such that it has guidelines for everything in marriage and how you conduct your social and, your business life, everything. So coming back to the kind of individual you should be to go into polygyny is educate yourself as much as possible. And if you still know, even scholars have said that if you're in a polygynous marriage and you have tried, to, as a woman, you have tried, your husband has married upon you, and you have tried to stay in the marriage and you're unable to heal, you can actually seek for divorce and there is no sin upon you. But don't outrightly say that, no, now I want divorce because you have married another woman.
So we've been talking about the woman who is already
now
there.
I'm going back.
What about the woman who is coming in?
Sometimes the woman who is coming on, she's labeled as a gold digger,
Home wrecker.
as a home wrecker, a lot of things. But we have seen from, from some of my clients that have taken through this transition, that this is not always the case. It happens in some instances where a woman comes in and she wants the, first wife to leave. It has happened. But is that the norm? It's not the norm. So there is good and bad polygyny, and there is a good way of doing polygyny and bad way of doing polygyny. And like I said, all stakeholders should have their hands on deck, and it starts with having the right knowledge. Now for the man, we've seen some men go into polygyny. They don't have the financial capability to even cater for one wife, and they're marrying additional women. And some men go into polygyny and deceive the incoming that, oh, I have capacity to take care of you. Some men actually, they change wives like they change clothes. They move the other wife out, bring a new wife. So everybody needs to check themselves, because the family is the smallest unit in any community. And whatever vices we're seeing in the society today comes from a family. And when we have dysfunction in a family, it affects the psyche of the child. And then this child goes into the society and causes problem for other people and for themselves. So as parents, we need to know that marriage is not only about ourselves. We have a trust and an obligation to everybody in that family unit to understand what marriage and parenting and being a husband and being a wife is all about, and show and put our best foot forward always. And it, like I said, I always tell people, if you don't have the right knowledge, you abuse whatever power you have. The power given to you as a parent, as a husband, as a wife, is meant for good. It's not meant for abuse. And it will cause dysfunction in society. Everybody you see today in society comes from a home.
Family, yes, yes. So what are your top 5 tools for women in polygamy to use to safeguard their mental health so that they don't end up suffering all those other things, anxiety, depression, and so on?
Yeah. So please, if you're a woman listening to this right now, you're in polygyny. Are you a first wife? Are you a second wife? Are you a third wife or a fourth wife? That's, know that you need to equip yourself with knowledge of what marriage is all about. And you need to know what your roles and responsibilities are. Because sometimes women go to the extent of, doing the roles of the husband in a bid to, keep the heart of the man from actually looking at another woman. And this backfires in a lot of the cases. So equip yourself, do what is within your roles and responsibility, and do it solely for seeking the pleasure of your creator, not in competition with another woman. Because if you go into competition with another woman, you are likely to always be, running a race that you may never win. But run a race. So, number 1, equip yourself with knowledge. Number 2, compete with yourself in pleasing your creator and in enhancing your marriage. So I also have this, some first wives, when their husband get married to a subsequent woman, they just hands up and say, there is no more love. But there is still love. So cultivate that love that there is, so that you would actually model, what marital intimacy and bonds would be to your own children. You're their role model when, they are also in their own marriage. So learn the rights, your roles and responsibilities,
yes.
Play them well. And if you need help, please seek help. There are therapists, there are people who can offer you free sessions. I've helped a lot of women heal, when it comes to...
Okay.
I've supported a lot of women heal when it comes to them experiencing the pain of polygyny. And please, do something with your life. Because beyond polygyny, if anything happens to your husband, you still need to cater for yourself and your children. So I've seen some women when they lose their husband, either through divorce or death, they're left running helter-skelter. They have nothing to fall back on. They don't have funds. They don't have skills. Go to a school and learn a skill. Even if you're educated, have something you're doing, no matter how small it's bringing in. And please, learn about growing your finances, learn about investment, so that you can actually do some things for yourself to make yourself happy. Don't wait for your man to make you happy. You are complete. Marriage complements you. Yeah. If you have this sort of mindset and you actually action all of this, by the special grace of God, you may struggle, but you would be fine.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Malama Aisha, for joining us on the Roundup, and thank you so much for an enlightening conversation.
Thank you for having me.
This past week, the nation was shocked and numbed with the news of the attack on the Abuja-Kaduna train. Authorities still cannot account for many passengers. The statement by the Nigerian Railway Corporation that the phone numbers of 100 or so were unreachable is cold comfort for our grief. Authorities need to do more to manage situations like this. For instance, survivors had to wait for hours before help arrived. All survivors also need psychosocial support to process this horrific event. Our condolences and prayers are with the families of victims, and the ones that are still searching for their loved ones. We hope the authorities involved will do better in ensuring better response times and actions. That has been our show. Thank you for joining me. Zarah Danejo signing out. Stay safe.